Today I'm going to show you how to make this circle skirt. It's going to be a simple design that you can embellish on. Here we go. New project. Drag in an avatar. Go to your 2D window. Grab the rectangle tool, zoom in, and pull out a rectangle that's a little bit wider than the waist. That looks good. Now we're going to go over here to the fullness line tool. Once you click around it, select both. Move this out of the way so you can see what you're doing, and reduce the number here. If you don't set it to both, it will just curl up on either side. So you just want one, and I just click down 1 inch. That looks good. You don't have to do this, but it does help it to fit better. Make a copy of it, drop it below. Let's go to the 3D window now. Rotate around. We'll grab that bottom one that we positioned, bring it over, and hit Control G. That flips it so the back is on the inside. And as long as we get it pretty close, we're good. Right about there. Let's segment sew this. Make sure those segments aren't crisscrossed. Simulate. Okay, if it looks pretty good, stop the simulation. Select both of them. And strengthen, it will turn orange. We'll need that strength to be able to hang the circle skirt off of. Okay, now we need to make the circle. There is a way to calculate it, and you can measure. So if you go back into your 3D window here, you can go over to the avatar. Click the basic circumference measure tool. We're going to click once, go around to the other side here, and you just have to try and get it about flat like that. That's close enough. We know it's 24.5 inches. Good. Go to the 2D window, and that's going to be our opening. Let's pull down a big circle for the skirt, and it's going to be about that big from shoulders to about the ankles. And then we'll come over and grab the internal ellipse tool. Try and get to the center and line up those points. Click once. I'm going to make it about 13 for the diameter. That's 26. It's a little bit bigger. And now with that selected, right click and cut. You can always just change the size of this hole later, but basically that's going to fit right around our waist. Okay, let's go over here. 3D window. Before we do anything with this, we need to select the avatar. Show avatar joints, and then we're going to rotate these. And the reason is we want the hands out of the way when we go to simulate the skirt. Okay. We're good there. I'll turn those back off. And I'm going to rotate this into position. Just get it close. Okay. In order to stitch this now, because we did make it bigger, we need some bunching to happen around each one of these segments. So I'm going to come down to the 2D window, grab Z, select these 2 points here, right click, and convert to curve point. And so that's one side sews to one side here. Okay. Grab segment sewing and try and line it up. And I sew to the bottom. Didn't quite work out, so I'm going to go back a couple steps and I'm going to shrink the size of the waistband. I'm going to select both, double click the center, and shrink them just a little bit. Perfect. Now it sits right on our hips. Let's add some graphics to this, but before we do, let's give her a top. In the 2D window, we're going to need to make some new fabrics. First of all, we want the fabric for the tops to be some off color that's just not purely white, and I'm going to go with something that's a little bit more on the yellow side. Apply, and then I'll apply to this one here. Let's make another fabric here. We're going to call this one skirt, and I'm going to apply a graphic to it. So here's a design I made in Adobe Illustrator. It has a gradient, and then it has a graphic. Everything else is transparent, and I saved it as a ping file. We want to add that graphic. Come on up here to the graphic tab. You can see this one already has it loaded, but let's just do it again. Hit the add button. Go in, find your graphic. I think this is the one I used. And then drag it on top of your design. Try and get it centered. And this threw me off. You have to click it again, and then this little bar or this little circle shows up, and then you can scale it however you like. It's not really apparent at first, so make sure that you click it, release, and then click again, and that thing will pop open. All right, good enough. Let's go over to the simulation and see how it looks. I think that's pretty cool, but it's a little bit disorganized. Let's give it some pleats. We'll stop the simulation, go back to the 2D window, and on this pattern, I'll select it with my A pattern tool, and you can see that the graphic then goes away and it's cut out. G brings up the internal line tool. Click once and then click again over here and hit enter, and it makes one line. We're going to do another one here. Click once, move it over, click again, hit enter, and that makes two lines. A tool again, select both of them, right click and cut. And now we've sliced it in half. Now with the Z tool, we're gonna shift select all four of these, right click, and distribute as line segment in between. And if I crank up this number, you can see it makes an array of internal lines. I'm just gonna give it a bunch and go for it. Okay, now we need to make this into pleats. That's right here, and I'm going to click and hold down, and I'm going to go for the pleats fold. And you can click all the way around this object until you get back to the end, and it will complete and ask you this question. Let's go with accordion pleats, and we can go with 2 or 3. Let's try 3 for now, and we'll hit OK. Come back over to 2D and simulate. Now that gives it some organization. It looks pretty cool, and you have yourself a really simple pleated graphic circle skirt.